In this video, you will learn another way to sacrifice the exchange in a good style, which I call the defensive exchange sacrifice. This is an example I don't have that great memories about because I was on the side which later lost the game against a very strong Polish Grandmaster. And up to here, things were going well for me with the white pieces, and I got a close to winning position, but then went for a move which is a bit dubious and was a bit naively expecting my opponent to react in, a way which I should have understood he won't react. So the move I played here with white was bishop to h6, and this is actually a mistake, already spoiling my advantage quite a lot. And he immediately sensed that and used his chance to get back into the game. So what was I actually aiming for with white? I was expecting him to move his rook to e8, and then crush through in the center with e5, opening the e-file, putting a huge pressure against a pin bishop on e7, all sorts of ideas, piling up pieces on the e-file, also maybe sometimes releasing some threats against f7, also some mating ideas might come in. G7, also just doubling the rooks on the e-file. So this is really horrible. The position is open. Also, I might imagine putting the bishop to the long diagonal and so on. It's just a disaster for black. But as he was, of course, sensing that would be a disaster, he came up with an original way to sacrifice the exchange, stabilize the position, and set up a successful defense. That's why I call it the defensive exchange sacrifice. So the biggest trouble for black is actually incoming if white opens a position, gets good rooks, maybe activate the stupid bishop on c4 and so on. So this e5 break is really something to watch out for. And what he did in the game was he stopped this e5 break at all cost by sacrificing the exchange, securing the dark squares with this bishop. This bishop is really great, and especially great once his counterpart is gone. So this is again some sort of color exchange sacrifice, because after white takes the exchange, we have a dark square bishop, white has a light square bishop, and this light square bishop will not be able to fight for the e5 push in the future. And so black is very stable despite being an exchange down. Also the knight is standing on some dark square where it can never really be challenged except by a rook, but that would mean white needs to give back the exchange at some point. So already here I realized with the white pieces that, things have gone wrong. Black has activated his bishop in a nice way, and I won't get a second chance to play e5 here. Sadly for me, I was too greedy and took the exchange. Maybe it would even have been better to just not take the exchange, as this rook at the moment is not more useful than this bishop. And I just lose a lot of control over the dark squares. So for example, rook a2 is what computers actually prefer, not be too greedy here and take the rook. I instead took the rook, and after this, I soon realized it's not so hard for black to hold this position together. And in fact, I was a bit desperate and thought I could never win this game with white here anymore, despite being an exchange up. But at the same time, I was even a bit careless, thinking with an exchange up, you cannot lose the game. So it will be a draw by waiting around, and he will agree to that shortly. But I managed to lose this game with white because, his pieces were just so good that even being an exchange down, he could make some progress and finally put some pressure against my position. So what I should have done was I should have played something like rook f2, hitting the f6 bishop. If the bishop goes there, I return with the rook. But now black is a bit stuck, as he cannot really activate queen and rook. And if the bishop goes back, then I will hit the bishop again, so that he has no time to activate his rook. Instead in the game I played queen f4, which is a mistake, because now there is time for rook e5, and now suddenly black is activating all his forces, putting some real pressure against my e4 pawn, and I'm not in time anymore to play rook f2 in a successful way, because there's already bishop g5 followed by queen e7, putting pressure against e4, and things are just getting worse and worse for white. So that's why I decided to play rook to e2, trying to hold on to this e4 pawn. Position is still holdable for white, but it's not easy. Queen e7 was played, queen f3, rook g5, queen e3. I was just waiting around, and he nicely activated his rook, disturbed my pieces. I tried to go active, sacrifice a pawn. That was not bad, but after takes, pawn takes, I was even correctly sacrificing another pawn to finally get some activity, but in the end I lost this by allowing him a successful attack. Already here I think black is in the driver's seat. He has this passer, black is a pawn up, and I think I was already a bit unhappy here with the white pieces, and soon I blundered it away. After bishop e6 there's a nice tactics, rook h3 takes, check, and now the queen and the knight have a winning attack. Basically I'm just getting checkmated here. Rook f2, he threatens a mate on h1. I tried to run away, but doesn't help. I will just get mated here on e2. Of course, there were some further mistakes, but I think the major turning point in the game was this point where I was going for the material, even voluntarily, trying to win the exchange, but my opponent was more than happy to sacrifice the exchange in order to stabilize the position, taking away this pawn break forever, and thus securing his king and finally bring all the pieces in. And that's a key thing to watch out for. In the defense, defenders are often more or less forced to sacrifice something, but sometimes it really changes the nature of the position and they get back into the game because material isn't everything. It's often more about how the pieces work together, what they really do, and then sometimes a bishop, for example in this game, this bishop on f6 or e5, this is just way stronger than a rook in this position because the rook states just have no targets and the bishop is really centralized, protecting and attacking all at the same time. So hope this was instructive for you. If so, please like and subscribe and write some comments for the algorithm. I really appreciate that. Helps me a lot. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye.